This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code SOCRATES at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenro radio playlist. zenroclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pornian Bakery. If you're located in the Pornian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pornian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great. You know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself, definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. All right, so we have a shortened podcast this week. You and I have to go super soon, which is great. It was like the synchronicity was on point. I was going to message you and be like, oh, I can't. I have to end early. And then you're like, oh, can I end early? I'm like, oh, perfect for both of us. So let's jump right in. Before we get into UAP stuff, there's a couple things here that I'm like, oh, this is actually really interesting. So one, Trump appointing Elon Musk as the leader of government efficiency. Thoughts on that? That was kind of weird. It's like, it was made up, bro.
These are all, it's just, yeah, like it seems like it's all made up positions just to put people in. As I said, right?
Put
like
people in. Yeah.
Just as I said, right? All those people joining his team because they're going to get a position. Yes.
Yeah, like Tulsi Gabbard. What was it?
RFK
like,
Jr.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, that's interesting what you're doing. Although Elon Musk did put something on Twitter that made, or X, that made actually kind of sense. He's like, when you watch like The Matrix, you were rooting for the rebellion. Star Wars, you're rooting for the rebellion, and like now we're the rebellion. And I'm like, that's true. Technically, like, let's just see how things shake up. It is very interesting that.
But the thing is, the thing is, but it's not like he's what's the word? You see, this would be the same thing that was happening or blaming the left for, which was in the sense of corruption, meaning because they know the insider stuff, so they have to let go of what's the word? Like the stocks and stuff like that they own or not own. Like third party has to be running those things.
Okay, interesting.
Because of
I don't know anything
because
about
of
this.
conflict of interest.
Okay, yeah.
Because you're in the government, so there's no.
So you're gonna know ahead of time like what the bills are.
Yeah, or you can scoot stuff towards what you want. So.
Okay, so my cousin was saying this, and I was like, I kind of feel it now. He's like Trump getting in is a bit of like a Kim Jong-un kind of thing, because you're like he's just so out of, you know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, you're just like
I feel like
now.
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be, but it was already there in the first, like when he was first one. Like he was putting in positions like his daughter and Jared Kushner. Like they don't have any knowledge of government, right? So
yeah,
totally. It was already happening then. Now it's more like it's in your face and people are still ignoring
it. Dude, no. For like what you just said is hit the nail right on the head. It's in your face and people are still ignoring it. If you're like listening right now, it's like obviously the main topic, we're going to talk about UAPs and the UAP hearing, but like it's in your face and nobody's talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I was with, all right, well, I'll bring it up later with the UAP stuff, but I was getting a tattoo done yesterday, right? And the artist is from China. So I was like, oh, have you been back? Whatever. And then she was like, no, not since like 15 years ago, but like I'm keeping up to date with it. And then I was like, I just came back from I came back from the Philippines like last year. And I'm like the progression of technology in Asia is so advanced, you know, compared to what we have here. And then there's even those like reels that are like, are we living, is Asia living in the future, or are we living where in the past where we should be? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is Asia actually where we are like supposed to be? And we're like, oh my God, they're in the future. But it's like, no, that's what it would look like if you just like adopted technology and like really ran with it and you didn't have these hurdles, right? And then what the artist was saying is that, which is what I hear from everybody from Asia, it's like, why did we keep saying like the West is the developed nation? It's like, but it's falling apart at the seams, because she was also like, oh, do you see the Jake Paul Mike Tyson thing? I'm like, oh, I was interested in the beginning, but now I just don't care, because I'm like, oh, it's just marketing. Just it's a distraction.
Yeah, I'll talk about that too. Something.
Okay, cool. Oh, interesting. So like with everything going on, it's like, dude, UAP is Trump's in office. You just put in Elon Musk. Nobody cares. And it's like, yeah, but we care about this Jake Paul thing. And you're like, oh, dude, like there's so many things happening that are way more important than this stuff, right? But if you look at spirituality, they always say, like, you know that song, like Dawning of the Age of Aquarius? It's like a very famous song.
Sure, I don't. Maybe I've heard of it. So I don't know the name of it.
Like, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's like it's everywhere. But like, when you hear like, oh, I've heard the song. It's like a very famous song. But like that line of the dawning of the age of Aquarius, like we don't realize that so what that means is like we're in this like constellation right now. I don't know. It's like, I don't know if it's like Leo or something, but like we're moving into the Aquarius age. And what that is every time you shift into an age, it's like a new paradigm shift. That's what like the ancients believed, right? Through their astrological tracking and stuff. But I really think, because I heard on a podcast yesterday, like it reminded me, Graham Hancock on American Alchemy. It's like, are we at the forefront of the complete abolishment of what we know as contemporary government, and we're about to change it? Because like, dude, how are we just having this guy, reality TV star, you know what I mean? It's like, and you just put on Elon Musk on the thing. When I saw that, I was like, that's weird. It was like very quick, you know? Like, what was the deal there? Like the endorsement, you know what I mean? Like, it's very odd. But do you know some, you like?
No, but they had mentioned about this even before he won.
No, but it's what you said. Nobody cares. That's what was weird to me. It's like, oh, you just did that. All right. Nobody's like, what is the Department of Efficiency? Like, what? You know what I mean? But it's like, are we looking at potentially like a clown government? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's funny because you laugh because you know what I mean, right? Yeah. It's like, is this thing just not real anymore? Like, what are we doing? But that's what they're saying with the Age of Aquarius. It's like, you're going to see the holes in the old way, and then we're just going to develop a new way. It doesn't mean like the destruction of like everything. It's just like, we need to really reset this thing right now, you know? So what were you going to say about Jake Paul or any of that?
Well, it was more about just the Netflix was crashed.
Oh, down?
Was down.
Yeah, I heard about that.
No, but it just reminded me like why, then it just reminded me like why legacy media was way better in that sense, to be able to handle these special events. But another,
true.
Right? That's what it reminded me. It's like, and then like I went to Twitter or X, just like what people were saying the same issue, and then everybody well, not everybody, there was like someone that posted like, everybody switched to 720 because their bandwidth can't handle it, so then we can all watch it.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Bro, see, but I mean, that is good for them in that you got a whole like global, like, all right. So there's like the beauty of the internet, right? We're all able to tune into this thing. It's like Kendrick Lamar did it when he did that concert, right? And it was on like Amazon Prime or something. Yeah, it was streamed on Prime, and then it was like live, and then like they did Joe Rogan's stand-up special on Netflix, and then now they're doing like the Mike Tyson thing on Netflix, and it's like, that is really cool about the internet. I like that you know, if they just get their,
but it has to work. And, like, the thing is,
it has to work. But it is. But you know what's funny about technology? We don't care about it unless it doesn't work.
Yeah.
If it was working, we'd have been like, all right, yeah, cool, we watched the fight.
It's not a news. Yeah, of course.
Right, but the fact that it wasn't.
But there was so much more. It wasn't just that. Like, I just popped in because it was free anyways, or you have Netflix, so it's like,
it's too late, bro. I was like, no,
I didn't watch I couldn't watch the main thing anyways. I just, it was stopped working, so I just went to like watch another movie or something.
Okay.
But even I remember in between the fights, you know how they have those people speaking on the panels or whatever. Generally, even there was issues with. They had so many problems. So there was someone that was on that panel. One of them guys, like the earpiece didn't work, so he can't hear anything, any question. So he's just sitting there.
Oh boy,
he's just like, it felt very amateur. He was just sitting there, and then the guy next to him, who's they're supposed to be interviewing, he's asking him questions to try to get him involved. You could tell like it was so awkward, and then they lost track of like where they're supposed to be. Okay, and like you can hear them. Oh, okay, what's next? What do we have to say next? Like,
oh my,
there was so much like
that's embarrassing.
It just reminded me like why legacy media worked so well.
Totally, for sure.
For experience.
The thing with this is like with live TV. That's why I was nervous watching Kendrick Lamar live, because I'm like, it's live, anything could happen, you know. And like same with this, you're seeing like a lot of the holes, and it's like live TV is like new territory, and people are really trying to, you know, fix it. I've noticed that when they re-upload it, they'll fix all those parts.
Yeah, because they cut it out, or they
right, yeah.
They edit it out. That's in a way that you don't know about that. Well, some of the fights, the way it reminded me of was like it was like WWE.
Exactly. It's fake. It's staged.
Yeah,
just like, what are we doing, bro?
It was like all those weird stuff, like even the entrances. It just reminded me of WWE. Of like,
yeah, I know.
He somehow brought like real boxing, or like they're not all of them are real boxers, but anyways, some of them are.
Yeah.
And then brought in WWE. He made it very entertaining in that sense.
No, for sure, totally. But it's like Rome.
Yeah.
You know, like bread and games, just like let's just entertain them and ignore everything about like what's about to explode in reality. I feel like I'm the only one who, I mean, like outside of you and I, but like whenever I have this conversation about like UAPs and stuff, I'm like, dude, this is the most existential thing. Like if they just say like, oh, you're not alone in the universe and we're being visited by aliens, you're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but nobody wants to like hear about it. It's like, oh, it's too much information. But then you're like, oh yeah, Mike Tyson fighting Logan Paul. They're like, oh, I have an opinion.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But it's like,
sure.
Okay, but what about the opinion about like UAPs and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
You don't care, you know. But it's like, but this actually affects your belief system, like who you are as a person. Because what does it mean about religion? And like, what if you find out that everything's a cargo cult? You know, it's like all the people like Jesus. I was like, oh my god, he's like the son of God. But it's like, no, the gods are like Anunnaki beings that are not real, and we thought they were gods because of the technology. One thing that is really it's saying that I've heard is like when you read all these ancient things like the Emerald Tablets and stuff of like Gilgamesh, and like if you listen to Forbidden Knowledge, one thing he was saying, and I think that guy like he knows. See, like everyone like Graham Hancock, you have like the UAP guys, and you have like I don't know, like scientists, right? You have all these people talking about different things, right? But you don't have a generalist that's listening to all of them and is like, oh, you guys are talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But that's what Forbidden Knowledge is. And that's like the guy, Forbidden Knowledge. I really like his approach to things because like he's reading everything and he's like, oh, it looks like this is what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas like some scholar like Graham Hancock is like, I don't believe in ancient aliens. But it's like, but if you just read into it, it's like you guys are saying the same thing. Remember, like Lou Elizondo and Stephen Greer, like you guys hate each other, but you're literally saying the same thing. You just don't want to listen to each other,
right?
You know. But I'm impartially just like listening to both. I'm like, wait, you guys are saying the same thing. So why are you arguing? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't understand the Stephen Greer thing. We mentioned that many times now. Like every time I come across it, even if I look at the comments, someone mentioned Stephen Greer, the reply to those comments are he's a disinformation agent or whatever. What do you call it? Disinformation agent.
Disinformation agent. Yeah. But it's like, bro, he's literally saying exactly what's coming out now. And if you listen to what he's really saying, it's very aligned with what Lou's saying.
Yeah, I've seen some clips. Yeah, like I've been seeing the clips on TikTok all of a sudden, things of the UAP stuff and Stephen Greer's interviews or part of his interviews or clips or something.
He's kicking up now. Yeah, he started adding more videos.
Oh yeah,
I've noticed it.
Yeah, and then it's like, as you mentioned it before, where it's like most of them are the crafts that are there are just our crafts, but not UAPs, but like from UAP technology.
Yeah, reverse engineered crafts. So if you know that, okay, so when you listen to like scientists talk about it now, and like people that are in government that like kind of know more about this than we know, but although now we're starting to get a lot with the whole Immaculate Constellation document that came out, it's like these are mostly because people are like, oh, is it just us? And it's like, yeah, most likely it's us. Even I believe that now. I'm like let's say 90%. I would say is us, and the 10% is like not even 10%. I think like 1%
Something else.
are not us.
Sure.
Like every sighting that you see it has to be us. The reason why is because when you look at Immaculate Constellation, that document, it's like these are all the outlined ones, and they even reference reverse engineered vehicles. But Stephen Greer is like, I have a full photo catalog of all of these things that you just described in Immaculate Constellation. Like he literally, like if you watch his documentaries, it's like he's like, that's us, that's us, that's us, and then he'll put the picture up, and you're like, is nobody watching this? And then when you see Immaculate Constellation, the descriptions of them, you're like, that's what Stephen Greer is saying, bro. Like these, all these things are the things we already have. So I think they really are like secret government tech.
Yeah, I wanted to add this. I just saw this in the comment of that UAP hearing.
Okay.
Maybe Stephen Greer is the real whistleblower because he's being blocked, right?
Ooh.
So this is a good line here.
Listen to
this hearing. Yeah, listen to this comment is pretty good. It's like the ones that are speaking, Louis Zondo and the other 2-3 other guys. He's saying they are not whistleblowers. They get permission to release certain information. That's not whistleblowing. A whistleblower is Edward Snowden, who's blocked, right? Who can't.
Agreed. Yeah.
So Stephen Greer could be the real whistleblower.
That's true. That's true though.
I can't be
controlled. We
controlled.
don't hear anything about Snowden. Like there's nothing about Snowden.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, that's true. Like why? Like at these congressional hearings, I'm like, why are we not seeing Stephen Greer here? This guy will tell everyone, like, no, here's some photos.
So plus, here, so potentially, you know what I mean? He's not being controlled in that sense. You get as a whistleblower.
Yeah. No, but all those people like Lou Elizondo and stuff, they're all saying we don't. So this is their thing. They're like, we don't want to be. We're not whistleblowers. They say that, like flat out, and they're like, a whistleblower is somebody who like goes against what's being said,
right,
and like reports on it. So Stephen Greer is a real whistleblower, but Lou Elizondo, he's like, I don't want to go to jail. I saw what happened to Snowden. Like, I don't want that. He said that so many times. Like, they're like, why are you being so coy? How come you won't admit it? And he's like, I don't want to go to jail.
Right.
And you're like, oh, that's true.
A good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Right. So but that's why they're both saying the same thing. He's open to telling you what it is, but he also doesn't want to play outside of what he's allowed to say because he knows you will go to jail for this. Okay. Before we dive more deep into the UAP thing, I did want to mention one thing about China because we're talking about the future. So one thing the tattoo artist brought up, and Joe Rogan's brought this up too, and I was like, but I didn't know what it meant. So he's like, we could move towards, if we were more like China, it would be like social credit score system. You heard that, right? Social credit score?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, like if you speak out against the government, you won't be allowed to purchase this thing. Or like, like people have not been able to like buy plane tickets or something like that, right? Sure. And I'm like, dude, that sounds crazy. There's no way that that's at that level. So the tattoo artist was like, yeah, so I was like counting it. I'm like, it'll cost me about like $10,000 to like spend a month in China. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, but also my money wouldn't work there. I was like, what do you mean your money wouldn't work there? And she's like, yeah, most things are paid through an app now. And I'm like, oh, it's like Apple Pay. In my head, I'm like, okay, yeah, Apple, we got that too. And she's like, yeah, it's their own internal app. And so basically,
so they know what you're buying. They have,
dude. Yes. And I was like, oh, but I didn't say it to her because I didn't want to like disrespect her. You know, it's her culture. But she was like, yeah, she's just saying it like normally, like, yeah, you know, like you have to use their app there, and like you can't pay with anything outside of the app. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And she's like, yeah, like, but the problem is like I don't have a Chinese ID. So like it'll be hard for me or foreigners to go around China. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, like you have to, when you apply for the app, you either use your fingerprints or your government issued ID number. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then I started to click. I was like, wait, they could just block you on purchasing things then. And then she's like, even like for foreigners, you use your passport to sign up for the ID because you can only pay with the app. And I was like, that does sound kind of freaky. Like, I mean, I get the efficiency, but it's like, oh, that could go really, really wrong.
Right.
You know, like at least you have like decentralized systems of like Apple Pay and like credit cards and like all that stuff. But if in China it's like only the app, she's like, no, she's like, oh, it's so convenient. You know, she's like, pay with,
But
but I'm like,
that's how
Apple
they.
Pay, bro.
Yeah, but the convenience is the selling point, right? But they don't run
Right.
the background of what's being done is not being.
And they know everything about you then. Like that's crazy. She even said that also
Because
in
they're
because we're
afraid. The thing is this, right? They're afraid. Uh, like actually people having power because their government would
yeah,
be gone.
yeah. Which is what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
But maybe they knew. That's why China's like, dude, you can't give them too much power. And you're like, what do you mean? And they're like, look at America.
Yeah.
Case in point. You know, and you're like, and then everyone in America, land of the free, I get to do whatever I want. I'm like, you guys don't really like going to Austin, Texas, and everyone's like, oh my God, Austin's the new Mecca. And I'm like, oh, they just have like a bunch of like homeless people here. And then during the moments when people come to Austin, like a big event, they hide the homeless people. And you're like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because me and my sister, right, we stayed like during a normal day, and then the convention was on the weekend. And then we were like, where did all the homeless people go?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then, like, even downtown Toronto, they said, like, oh, we're cleaning up the homeless to keep them safe for the Taylor Swift event. I'm like, no, it's so it's not ugly
Mm-hmm.
because there's like a bunch of homeless people, right? And like, that is what happens when you have like poor control. But it's like, what's the balance then? Because you're a totalitarian government or you're like free, but too much freedom is also not good. You know what I mean? We're starting to see some holes.
Well, I mean, like these are all man-made things, right? So
Yeah,
nothing is
yeah, totally.
perfect, right? Everything, that's why we have a country that's like China, and we have a country that's like America. These are two different ways of running systems,
Yeah,
and there still exists. So
that's true. That's true. But like, I feel like, again, with the dawning of the age of Aquarius, it's like we're gonna see something
I
happen.
mean, I think technology and something has to help us. I mean, it's always been happening. It's just
Yeah.
maybe we're seeing it more clearly, I would say, or like there's a lot more information coming up because of the catalyst of technology or internet.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I agree. One last thing with the China thing before I jump into the UAP thing. Um, Actually, I want to talk about like ancient texts too, because you'll find this really interesting. But like in China, she was saying that like you don't even need a bank card to pull out money, and I was like, what do you mean? She's like, they just scan your face, bro. You literally just go up to the thing, they scan your face, and they're like, okay,
I've
here's your
seen those.
money.
I've
And you're
seen
like,
those. Some of those TikToks that
whoa.
go like live streaming in China. Like I seen, yeah, something about face scanning. I forgot what exactly it was doing, but yeah, yes, at street
They, they
corners or something.
They do that in the airport though. When I was in Hong Kong, like in my transition to go to Philippines, it was cool. I liked it though because it was efficient. But it's like you said, they sell you on the efficiency
Hmm.
because like they scanned my face as I was entering the airport, and then they paired that to my passport. So then
Hmm.
when I'm going through the check, you know how like she always like reads like, okay, you're in the seat. Here you go. We just walked through the gate because it's like scan face, scan face, scan face. You're good. You're
Hmm.
good. You're
Hmm.
good. You know. So yeah, pros and cons. So I think all of this centers around technology. So with if you come to a lower life form planet and you see like, oh, and they're in the Stone Age, and we have things that are like way advanced from their capabilities, we're gonna seem like gods to them, right? So
Hmm.
if you look at the ancient tablets, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Emerald tablets, all that stuff, they're literally talking about technology. And I was like, is it the chicken or the egg? So did we read those and we're like, I want to emulate that? Or did they have what we already have and we're just catching up to them and we're understanding how they did everything now? So
Hmm.
for example, the pyramids, the alignment of the pyramids and like all that stuff, you couldn't get that done with like hunter gatherers or people who like had no sense of like they're just like guessing, right? I'm not talking about like how they put it together. Because people are like, yeah, you just like cut the stone block and you lift them up the hill. Who cares about that? It's more about the precision of the alignment of where everything is. And one thing Billy Carson, Forbidden Knowledge, said was you would need satellites in order to pinpoint that. You need to
Hmm.
be like, okay, like this is the best location. And we could do that now, right? And another thing was these gods would have resurrection chambers underneath the pyramid, and they would say that they would go in and they would swap bodies, right? And we're like, dude, that's crazy. But now we're getting close to transferring consciousness. We're like looking into that now. Like can I like upgrade a body, or like can I like, like if my arm's severed, I can like bring it back. You could see where it's going. If we can digitize consciousness, you could just move it from like
Mm-hmm.
host to host, right? So, and then one other thing that they're saying, and you heard this all the time, is like in the ancient texts, is like every cell in your organism, in like your body, has a deep knowledge of the universe. And you're like, whoa, dude, that's crazy. Like I can meditate, whatever. But now they're finding that they can, in the DNA, they can store things on DNA, like binary code,
Mm-hmm.
and it has like petabytes of data. So it's like that's like thousands and thousands of terabytes.
Right.
So like, do we actually have encoded information in our DNA? Like, I don't know. Maybe in the future it's like, oh, we're able to like read that now. Or
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
like all of these things, like what do you think? It's like chicken and egg? Or is it like, you know, did are there things that we didn't understand? Because what they said is like when civilization is able to understand what we're talking about, it'll hit a new age.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, dude, I see like where we're
Sure.
headed now.
Right.
Like, were these technologies that they had? You know, makes you wonder,
Yeah, sure it does. Yeah. I don't.
right?
Yeah, it could be that fact. I don't know if it's chicken and the egg or just part of natural evolution to go in that direction.
Like everywhere on the universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's like in a different planet, they just built up technology and then they started traveling the universe just like we are about to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh yeah, like they'll say things so cryptically, and then like the hunter gatherers would be like, oh my god, like what does it mean to transfer, from body to body? Is that the soul? And it's like, no, bro, it's like we're just digitizing
Mm-hmm.
consciousness and moving it. So maybe there is no soul. Maybe it's just like this conscious awareness that we have and just
Yeah.
digitized.
Yeah. So it's
That makes
sometimes
sense.
again, yeah. It's also language. We're
Yeah,
using our words to trying to
facts.
decipher what they wrote. We don't know what they actually
Totally.
used.
But no, facts. But what Billy Carson's saying is like, if you pair that, like that ancient
Mm-hmm.
knowledge
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
the technology of today,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, we're capable of making these links,
Sure.
you know? So like one thing it said, and I'm very curious to see if this is real. So like one thing Billy Carson said is that one of the Anunnaki left his spaceship under the Sphinx. And he said that in the future, like an enemy from space will come to this planet, but you'll have no problem defeating them if you can figure out how to get that ship. And I'm like, okay, that sounds crazy, bro. And then they're like, oh, there's all these pathways underneath the Sphinx. And you're like, okay, guys, can we use some LiDAR and just like scan there? You know what I mean? Like, let's just figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if you say that there's a ship in there, why don't we check if there's a ship?
Right.
But like, we couldn't do that with like pics. Like, we couldn't like dig it
No,
out.
but you have to, again, it's like, but it still comes down to money. It's like, okay,
Totally. Facts.
we can do the LiDAR scanning, but what can how can I make money from it?
Facts.
This is the way
Oh,
our
dude.
system works, right? So
Yes.
that's the issue.
Yeah.
No,
All
that's
right.
the
So,
issue, right? That's where we are stagnant and we can't study freely in that sense.
okay. So let's jump into the UAP hearing. Did you watch the UAP hearing at all, or just like
Uh,
highlights from it?
no. That's what I was listening to right now. I got about a little bit over halfway in.
Okay, dude, it's so good. It's gonna get. It's just. Did they talk about the bodies and stuff? All right.
No,
You know
I'm
what?
not there yet.
Dude, all right. So just if you're listening to this, just watch the whole thing. It's crazy.
Mm.
So one thing that I found out, because you're talking about resources, and it like triggered a memory. So as they're talking about it, you know how one of the guys from NASA.
Hmm.
So later on in that thing, when you're listening to it, they're like, what can we benefit from these technologies and stuff? And he's like, we need to, like, it would make Project Artemis better, like easier and like more cost efficient. I'm like, what the hell is Project Artemis? I start Googling it. He's like, he was saying in it, you'll hear, he's like, we got to beat China to the moon in Project Artemis. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? So I Googled it. It's like, oh, you guys are trying to like build a base on the moon. What for? Resource extraction.
Hmm.
It's like, we're not trying to like send missiles there. It's like, is there like cobalt on the moon? because we need cobalt for our cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And we can like, and you remember that movie, that like the Netflix show that you were talking about? It was a while back on the podcast. You were like, I'm watching this
Oh yeah,
show,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
right?
Miners. We're always been
And you're like,
miners.
we're always miners, bro. And it's like, that is what we did with Christopher Columbus. We didn't find the new world out of like a desire for
No, no,
exploration.
no.
Like if anyone's listening to this and they're like, no, of course, we did it out of altruistic. We just wanted to know, okay, who paid for the boats?
Mm-hmm.
Who paid for the food?
Yeah.
Who paid for the crew? Who paid for like all of the stuff that's needed to go on this voyage? It wasn't out of altruism. Christopher Columbus had to convince the queen, hey, if you give me this money, I'll go find resources. I'll bring it back. I'll give you more money because there is stuff out there. Right? And the queen's like, all right, cool. I love money. So
Sure.
she sent him out
Yeah.
like, oh, we found America. And everyone's like, it's just like that Thanksgiving thing. I don't know the true story of Thanksgiving, but everyone's always like, oh, Thanksgiving's not actually about like peace and harmony. It's about like killing the indigenous. And you're like, what are you talking about, bro? You
Well,
know,
I
but
think
it's like, you look into
I
it.
believe that's true.
Well, what?
I believe
true?
that. Yeah, but it's more about the Columbus. We have Thanksgiving Day here. At the same time, I think in the U.S. it's Columbus Day. So.
Oh, got it. And that's why they're saying it. Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so like Christopher Columbus, he literally went to like the new world, saw these people and was like, meh, you're all dead now. My technology's better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we going to space? Resource extraction. Totally Elon Musk's belief of like, yeah, we're just gonna colonize Mars so that like the brain is like the consciousness lives on, for sure. Okay.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's really resource extraction.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what else could it be? And when I saw this like race to the moon, I'm like, why would you be doing that? Oh, of course, because you want dominance there, and then you get to own all the resources that are there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that movie Ad Astra.
Yeah.
With Brad Pitt. Remember, and then they jumped to the moon, and then like there were pirates on the moon who were like, remember that battle scene?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's literally where we could be headed.
Mm-hmm.
But how crazy would it be? Because they're saying like, there's already, if you look into it, it's like, it sounds weird, but there's already bases on the moon with like people living there. It's like it's a base already for the Anunnaki that were here before on the dark side of the moon, and like the people that were in the spaceships, like Buzz Aldrin and stuff, they saw it and they were like, dude, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. There are lights. You can go like look into it. And then when they came back, the reaction after coming back from the moon was very like somber. They realized like, oh, we're not alone in the universe. Allegedly. I'm just saying like, that's the narrative that some people put on them. But like, how crazy it would be if you go there, like China and USA, and then you're like, dude, there are people here. Let's kill them. Like, we're doing it again, you know? And then we're going to have, like, in the future, like 200 years from now, it'll be like Thanksgiving Day on the moon, you know, when we, like, made peace with the aliens and, like, you know?
Sure, right. Right.
Like, we're literally repeating history, which is crazy. So, did you get to the point where he talks about life?
No.
Lou Elizondo?
No. Not even
dude,
there.
it's a good point. So then the one person was asking,
I think I saw the
like,
clip of it. Yeah, like what does he mean by life? There's different terminologies for that. Yeah.
Huge genius. So like he's like life, we thought it needed oxygen, and then we found out that there's life without oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh dude, that I didn't even know that. And then he's like, also photosynthesis, and then there's chemosynthesis, so they don't even need light. So he's like, we need to figure out our definition of like life. Because the person asking, you'll see it. She asked the craziest question. He's like, are these vehicles alive? And he's like, wait, like, what do you mean by that? You know what I mean? Because like some people think that these vehicles are entities. Like there's no like pilot. It's literally just the vehicle itself is just like alive, which would be crazy. But okay, with all that, another thing related to spirituality is like there was this painter who was drawing UFOs. Okay. And then it was in the Graham Hancock and Jesse Michaels American Alchemy podcast, if you want to listen to it. He's like, why are you painting UFOs? And he's like, they're not UFOs. They're vehicles to go between the spirit realm and this realm. And I was like, that's interesting because science now is saying like interdimensional. Like these UFOs could be interdimensional beings. And you're like, is that what they meant about like the spirit world? Like, is there another no, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like as we progress in technology and in our understanding, like science is like, no, there are like was it 14 different dimensions for like string theory or something? Like Michio Kaku's like there's 14 different dimensions stacked on top of each other. And you're like, what the hell does that mean, bro?
Mhm.
Like, are there monsters? Like, what are you doing? Is it like Inuyasha? Do you just jump through a portal and you're like in a whole new world? Like the future is like endless now to me because it's like,
Sure. Yeah.
what does all of this mean?
Mhm.
I don't know. What is your take?
No, I agree. I think there's nothing wrong with being like altruistic about what we think of these things mean in the future. But like we again, that's speculating based on what we don't know, right? So this is
Yeah,
just what we do know, and these are theories that we have. But what is truth? We don't know that till we actually find out.
totally. Um, but it makes you think about what the indigenous were saying. Remember, like the spirits in. Do you remember Princess Mononoke, the wolf,
Uh,
the Wolf Girl,
uh,
Studio Ghibli?
I know the movie, but I don't remember the movie, the show, or
Okay,
the story.
so I was reading this indigenous book on my flight to Halifax, and like
Mm.
one of the best ones. I forgot the title though, but it was really good. It was about the Ojibwe ceremonies, and in it they were talking about like beings, like little elves in the forest that they would interact with the um the indigenous people.
Hmm.
And then I was like, oh, Kodama from Princess Mononoke. These little like alien looking creatures. And then what they were saying is actually that's the tattoo I got yesterday, the Kodama. And like it was saying that the trees have these entities within them, and they like if it's a healthy forest, you'll see a bunch of Kodama because they're playing and like living and happy, right? And then if the forest is dying, you wouldn't see those Kodama,
Hmm.
right? But if you look into like Shinto, where like Studio Ghibli got it from, like the Kodama is a Shinto belief system. And then in the Philippines, they believe in elves within trees as well. And I'm like, all right, guys, are there actual elves like in the vicinity?
Hmm.
And like, can you tap into them? One thing Graham was saying is like, sure, there are ships that can go interdimensionally, but we can do that with like psychedelics too.
Hmm.
And remember, like the trees, there's that giant tree in the Philippines in like my dad's old elementary school. And then they're like, oh, it's a demon tree. And you're like, what are you talking about, demon? And like anybody who goes on it or like climbs it, the elves will curse them. And then like there's kids that'll roll
Sure.
around, they'll have like psychotic breaks and stuff. And then as we're going, my uncle was like, there's a demon tree. I'm like, oh, what kind of tree is that? Because there's one, like, it'll be interesting. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, it's an acacia tree. And you're like, oh, acacia is high in DMT. Okay, I see what's going on here.
Right.
So it's like, are they just tripping? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah,
And then
that could be the case, right?
exactly, it's like a logical scientific thing explaining some phenomenon. And that's what I mean. Like science is
Mm.
catching up to like these ancient texts where you're like, oh, it's like a demon. You're like, no, it's actually just a chemical in your brain,
Mhm,
bro. You know
mhm.
what I mean? Or like another one that I heard is like when you go into um this tomb of this guy, I forgot the specific tomb. Graham Hancock was again talking about it. He was like, yeah, if you go into the Khufu's tomb or something, people will die. And you're like, oh, it's cursed, it's haunted,
Mhm.
right? And then when they brought scientists there, it's like, oh, it's high in uranium.
Right.
So they're dying because of this uranium.
Right.
But see, it's like science is like explaining these things
Sure.
now. So it's like science is catching up to spirituality. Or like the other one was the Holy Grail. So if you listen to um what's the name? Forbidden Knowledge, he was saying that the Holy Grail is actually a nuclear reactor. So nuclear fusion is like one of the most powerful energy resources we have, right? Like the atom bomb kind of thing. And like we like that's the I don't know, like one of the highest sources of power. And he was saying that that's what could have been powering the the pyramid.
Mhm.
Okay. And just go with me on this. Sounds crazy. So like within the pyramid, and me and Tara have been inside the pyramid when they're like, oh, if you go in, it's like a coffin, right? And then what what Forbidden Knowledge was saying is like, it's not a coffin, it's the place where you put the nuclear reactor. And if you look into the lore of it, that nuclear reactor is the Holy Grail. Okay. Because it's so tiny. It's like you couldn't fit, unless they were like really tiny people, like you couldn't really fit in there. Right. So, one thing in the ancient text is saying is that you'll go blind, you'll get a sickness if you're around the Holy Grail. You have to hold it with like special gloves, right? And it fits all of the hallmarks of nuclear fission. These people are like looking at a fusion like reactor thing. They're going blind. They're getting cancers all over their body because that's what radiation. It's radiation poisoning, bro. Right? And allegedly they have this in I forgot. It's some African country. That's where he started his whole career. Graham Hancock. He was like doing journalism in this African country, and they're like Kenya or something, and they're like, "Oh, we have the Holy Grail." And then he's like, "What are you guys talking about?" So he went there, and they're like, "You can't go inside." But everyone that was guarding it, they like when it's your time to guard the Holy Grail, you die after 3 years, and you go blind as you're doing it, right? And he's like, "This sounds like radiation."
Right.
And it's like, if it turns out it's that, it's like we've just explained with science what you only talked about spiritually, which is like, oh, it's this holy thing we can't touch, or you'll still die. You know what I mean? It's like all of this is starting to click as we move towards like better and better science. Okay, with our last 7 minutes, I really think that we're on the cusp of an entirely new way of living. And cat's out of the bag, especially after reading the Immaculate Constellation thing. Oh.
That was weird.
That was weird. It was crazy. Yeah. I think it's like hand signs they're saying.
Yeah. Well, can you not turn that off, I guess?
I have no idea. Anyway.
Sure.
Wow, they're just trying to silence us right now as we talk about Immaculate Constellation. How weird was that, the timing, as I said the code word? Anyways, so Immaculate Constellation, with that paper, and then when you read the paper, it's like, okay, we've basically reverse engineered down crafts or crafts that we found in the ground, right? Oh, remember Bob Lazar was like, we found some of these crafts underground. It's like during archaeological digs, and the Emerald Tablet said that there's a spaceship underneath the Sphinx. It's like, okay, this is making sense, guys. Like that they're buried here or whatever. But if we, I mean, no, it's not if. We have found that we are reverse engineering these crafts. And the key point of all of this is they've cracked anti-gravity. If you look at American Alchemy, he has so many videos about anti-gravity. And like there's this Chinese scientist that came to America to like work on it. And then she got like silenced. Like they don't know where she is anymore. Like all these people were on the verge of cracking anti-gravity. Like the Nazis were on the verge of it. It's like, did they crack it? And they're just hiding this beyond black technology. And if it gets released to the public, it will completely disrupt our economic system. That's what Stephen Greer was saying. And after seeing the hearing and reading the paper, I'm like, that's the only thing that makes sense. We're about to get crazy technology, but there's an unfair competitive advantage because everyone, like all these companies knew about it and they didn't let anyone know. So like people like Elon Musk, he's like solar and wind. And it's like, we've actually got the cleanest energy, which is 0 point. So now you're wasting your time and your resources and like, So people are going to be sued. I think that's like the big thing that's about to happen is like companies are going to get crazy sued. But at the end of it, I think we're going to get a whole different like cyberpunk world. What do you think?
Yeah, that'd be great. If that's the case.
It makes sense, right? Like there's no way we're going down. Like they can't.
No.
I mean, the one world government kind of thing and like the totalitarian thing, like after hearing what's happening in China with like the technology, like that's a little freaky. But like, I really do think, okay, if you have an anti-gravity craft and it's been written in Congress, we have it on paper, you guys have it. Now the next step, the next hearing is going to be, okay, we're going to pull these people from Lockheed Martin, General Electric, all these people, we're going to put them in front of Congress. All right, what do you know? And if they're like, yeah, we have anti-gravity craft. Okay, the next step is, how do we harness that for the good of humanity?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the only step. They're not going to let you keep using anti-gravity craft. But the crazy part about this, if you listen to Stephen Greer's the other whistleblowers that talk about this stuff, there's actually a cabal of like drug smuggling and human trafficking that's going on using these crafts. Okay, so like during the best time to do it is during like a tsunami or like a natural disaster because you can scoop up people and like, oh, where are they? Oh, they're dead. They got taken away, you know, but they're actually just like being like human trafficked. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a potential cabal of human trafficking. Epstein, Diddy, are these all connected? And we're about to find out that like General Electric has been helping this along and like Lockheed Martin's been helping this along because they created these crafts.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other scary part. It's like not only economic collapse, but like you might find out that there really is like a Illuminati.
Right.
What do you think? Crazy?
Yeah, it's a bit crazy.
It's a bit crazy, but the whistleblower, I mean, crazy, but like you can see the logical steps. All the people with Stephen Greer's thing, he's like the reason why they don't want to out this, aside from the energy, is also there's like people are in power using these methods. Like because what are
Mm-hmm.
you going to use them for? Like why do you have these UFO crafts? To protect the peace? We've never seen them in wartime. So who's using them? And what are you using them for?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be the next question. There's going to be a series of questions like how do we apply this technology towards like the good of humanity, but also why were you creating them?
Right.
And I think that's the Age of Aquarius moment where we just like, okay, we need to reset because crazy stuff's just happened. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Agree, disagree?
I don't know if I believe that, but
Okay.
that's my point. That's
But
where I
but, but,
would be. Yeah.
but the questions, I mean, like, do you think the logical next step is like, how do you use this energy for the good of humanity?
Sure, yeah, but I don't know if that's again. It comes down to our own laws of proprietary technology.
That's what Stephen Greer is saying. He's like, they're letting it out now, as in the while in the background, they're legally trying to figure out how to patent this and like make sure that they get to keep the money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. But then wouldn't the next logical step after how do we use this for the good of humanity is why were they being created in the first place?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question to ask. Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And then if you're like, because we never seen them in the battlefield, what were we using for?
Or if it was all for something to be that we're trying to prepare for an alien invasion.
Okay. Maybe. That is what Stephen Greer said that they're gonna make us believe in order to like
Mm-hmm.
do. He's like it was in the last podcast, but like if you're able to space fare, you're most likely benevolent because you had to have worked together as a species,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I
Well,
mean,
we
yeah, you
don't
never
know.
know.
We
Like
don't
you
know.
never
You
know.
never know.
There could be like the reptilian race is coming, and
We
we're
don't.
just gonna, like,
No, but like things can change, like the way how much has changed in America, right? Like who's voted in. Like if there's things like that that could happen.
right. And then it's like the Emerald Tablets. They're coming from space to attack us. If you can unlock the thing, you'll defeat them with ease.
Yeah. What was that about?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, what was that about? So it's like, oh, maybe, yeah, maybe
Right.
that's true. They could be like, yeah, we have a fleet. Don't worry, guys. This
Mm,
was all. And then you're like, dude, how deep does the rabbit hole go?
right.
Because we're like,
Yeah.
oh,
But that's when you can go into these levels of questions because we don't know enough information. That's the problem as well.
no, I'm totally. But that's why I'm like, my next logical question would be like, can we use it? And then after that is why were they being made?
Exactly. So
Actually,
those are
maybe be like,
those are
why?
yeah, those are fine questions to ask, but we don't have
Yeah.
answers to that, so we can't jump to a conclusion. Right.
But that's why I think we're on the precipice of like a crazy revelation because you already have proven to every single person that there is a reverse. The fact that they put into like Congress, the congressional documents that you can look up online, which is the Immaculate Constellation, it's like cats out of the bag. So you have been reverse engineering downed alien vehicles. It's in there. It's ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, okay, so you reproduced an alien vehicle, bro. Like, it's done. So now the next question is why and can we use it?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think we're about to hit a cyberpunk reality. If you watch Naruto, there's an alien race that came and like seeded like Naruto's world to give them energy, like chakras and stuff. And then now the original alien race is coming to collect more resources. So there's a intergalactic battle, and we might be headed towards that. Like you said, it's like, are they preparing us? Like, oh, it's all freaky.
Right. Like again, it's like the dark side of the moon, if they're there.
What is on there, bro? I know, dude. I'm optimistic, not as scared. I'm more optimistic.
Sure.
Because I just want that cyberpunk reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, till next week because we both gotta go. Yeah, take it easy, Vish. Hopefully the world doesn't blow up before then.
Well, we gotta wait sometime.
Or like aliens come. Imagine before 2024, remember Year of Truth, and they're like, all right, so an alien invasion's coming, and we're just preparing the battlefield. Oh my god, that's crazy. Yeah, we'll see. All right, take it easy, Vish.
Or to protect us from an asteroid. I'll just say that too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, fair. That could be a good one too. Yeah. All right, take it easy.
Peace.
Bye. All right, hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors, Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.